It's the most wonderful time of the year. It is Christmas, and we here at Fred the Alien are all about celebrating this joyous occasion. But because I like to do things a little bit differently, this is not your typical Christmas list. The holiday season tends to get a little cheesy, a little corny, so I have just the antidote for you. I'm Kendall Richardson, and these are my top 10 non-traditional Christmas movies. Number 10, Scrooged. I think it's fair to say that this is the most Christmassy non-Christmas movie on this list, but I've allowed it because it is a non-conventional take of the classic Charles Dickens story. In this contemporary 1988 version, our Ebenezer Scrooge is a TV network president named Frank Cross, played by the legendary Bill Murray, one of my absolute favourites. Whilst the film as a whole is a bit disjointed tone-wise and a little unimaginative, Bill Murray was the perfect choice for Frank Cross. He's the character that Bill excels at playing, crude, rude, sarcastic as hell, yet weirdly charming and hilarious. Except in this film, it's dialed to 11. I also really enjoyed the ball of sunshine that was Karen Allen as Frank's love interest Claire, an inspired casting choice for the endearing and optimistic social worker she portrays. The energy that Murray puts into Frank's big speech at the end of the film is fantastic, however. Such an excellent and honest rant about love and positivity that believably shows just how much Frank Cross has changed for the better. Number 9, Krampus. There is almost nothing I love more than something cheery with a dark twist. As a horror film fan, movies like Gremlins and Krampus are right in my wheelhouse. And whilst this film wasn't amazing, I still found it fun and a worthwhile watch. Lifted straight from Austrian and German folklore, Krampus tells the story of a young boy whose Christmas is ruined by his imperfect and ungrateful family, and as a result, he unwittingly summons Krampus, a demonic Santa Claus, to punish them. There's a couple of laugh-out-loud moments and a few scary scenes, but overall, the film never really fits into either the comedy or the horror genre. However, the film's ending was deliciously morbid, despite being a little ambiguous. And considering how vile and rude some of these characters are, it was extremely satisfying to see how they ended up. Number 8, Lethal Weapon. One of the most iconic body cop movies of all time, Lethal Weapon follows Riggs, played by Mel Gibson, and Murtaugh, played by Danny Glover, as two unlikely partners investigating a homicide. I was actually really impressed with Mel Gibson's performance in this. Riggs is struggling to deal with the sudden loss of his wife, and in an incredibly powerful scene, almost takes his own life. On the other hand, Murtaugh is a 50-year-old family man who is really too old for this shit. I love the bond that forms between these two characters over the course of the film. Gibson and Glover have a natural chemistry that works extremely well on the screen. And while the film itself hasn't aged really well, it is still a classic to this day, and one that I recommend every action film fan should check out. Number 7, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a noir-style movie with a modern twist. Pre-Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. plays Harry, a thief whose destiny seems tied up with coincidence. He passes as an actor to avoid being arrested, then ends up embroiled in a murder mystery with a PI named Gay Perry, played by Val Kilmer, and an aspiring actress played by Michelle Monaghan, who just happens to be one of Harry's childhood friends. My favourite thing about this film is the narration. RDJ narrates the film in such a wonderful, sardonic and fourth wall breaking way that really helps to set the film aside from others of the same genre, giving it character like only Robert Downey Jr. can. For an action film, there is tons of humour throughout, contained mostly during the moments of banter between the three leads. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. Number 6, Trading Places. This classic 80s comedy features two of my all-time favourite comedic actors, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Directed by the great John Landis, Trading Places tells the story of a wager made between two absurdly rich and absurdly appalling brothers to see if an upper-class entitled man and an impoverished hustler can switch spots and effectively fulfill the roles they've been given. The wager succeeds with hilarious and morally ambiguous consequences. Seeing Dan Aykroyd's Lewis dressed as the drunk, disgusting and depressing Santa Claus made for a bleak and humorous take on an iconic ensemble usually associated with joy and happiness. Both Aykroyd and Murphy excel in their respective roles, providing many laughs over the course of the entire film. But the best parts of Trading Places happen after Billy Ray and Lewis find out about the bet and join forces to take the Duke brothers down, which made for an extremely satisfying ending. Number 5. The Nightmare Before Christmas. There are many age-old questions that once asked are debated endlessly throughout history. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Why is the sky blue? Who really killed JFK? And most importantly of all, is Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie? Pumpkin King Jack Skellington has become weary of the same Halloween year after year, and after he stumbles upon Christmas Town, he becomes obsessed with the jolly holiday and intends to become the new Sandy Claus. The Nightmare Before Christmas is an excellent musical thanks to the genius of Danny Elfman, with songs like This Is Halloween and What's This that will become stuck in your head for hours after you finish watching the movie. The film is so much fun and such a brilliant spooky take on the holiday season. Number 4. Batman Returns. Another great Tim Burton film makes an appearance on this list. Batman Returns was a sequel to the stellar Batman film of 1989 and saw The Dark Knight take on not only the Penguin but Catwoman as well. With Christmas as its backdrop, the icy cold Gotham winter adds chillingly to the atmosphere and the darker tone of this Batman sequel. As incredible as Jack Nicholson's Joker was, the one thing this film has over its predecessor is depth. The villains are more fleshed out and are motivated more intensely by their personal tragedies. In particular, Michelle Pfeiffer's sultry and unhinged performance as Selina Kyle / Catwoman. Her relationship with Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne / Batman is not your typical movie romance. I really love how they explore the two characters' struggles with identity mirroring each other and how their inner conflicts diverge for the better and for the worse. You know, mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. Number 3. Iron Man 3. When picking and choosing what movies could go on this list, I was so happy to discover that one of them could be from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The first Christmas since the events of the Avengers sees Tony Stark suffering from post-traumatic stress as a result of his near-death experience in New York. A terrorist known as the Mandarin is executing attacks on American soil, and once his best friend Happy is left in a coma, Tony announces that Iron Man is coming for him. This film has a few things in common with the previously mentioned Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It has the same director in Shane Black, the same lead in Robert Downey Jr., and it also features RDJ doing narration, on top of it being set at Christmas time. Tony's narration also leads into a lovely twist in a post-credits scene at the end of the film, which I will not spoil here. Despite some hardcore comic book fans being unhappy with certain elements of the film, Iron Man 3 is excellent, filled with great action, humour, and the titular character doing what he does best, taking out the bad guys. Number 2. Gremlins. Before we begin, you must remember these very important rules. Number 1. You do not talk about Fight Club. Wait. I consider Gremlins to be an absolute classic of the not-your-average Christmas movie genre. It is also quite a morbid take on the infamous holiday season. There are references to suicide, accidental death, actual gun violence, explosions, melting monster corpses. I could go on and on. This might actually be the most metal Christmas movie of all time. I can't believe it's actually rated PG. Also, randomly, it features Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad as a police deputy. Despite that, little Mogwai Gizmo is the cutest creature to ever grace the silver screen. I love how he sings his own little theme, gets really into the black and white movies that Billy lets him watch, and at the end of the film saves the day by destroying the villainous stripe with sunlight. But yes, the rules. The second rule is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Wrong movie!
honorable mentions. Before we reach the number 1 spot, here are 3 more movies to jingle your bells with. Just Friends. It's a rom-com Christmas! As a whole, Just Friends is quite cliche and the story has been done to death. But what makes this movie worth your while is the performances of its cast. Ryan Reynolds is at his comedic best in the role of Chris Brander, the dorky heavyset best friend of the woman he loves, Jamie Palomino, played by Amy Smart. After turning his life around with great success and weight loss, Chris returns to his hometown after 10 years by pure coincidence and proceeds to try to woo Jamie once and for all. But of course, everything goes wrong. Anna Faris is also outstanding in her role as rising pop star Samantha James, and Chris Klein excels in his role as fake sensitive Dusty Dinkelman. The physical comedy of this movie is also something to enjoy, especially any scene with Reynolds and Faris. If you're looking for a good laugh around the holiday season but don't want Christmas rubbed in your face, this movie is for you. Edward Scissorhands. I wanted to give a shout out to this gloriously gothic movie for a few reasons, most importantly being, you can do a Tim Burton Christmas movie marathon. Whilst not really being a Christmas movie, the climax of the story does take place at Christmas time. Edward Scissorhands is one of Mr. Burton's greatest and most iconic works, a beautifully poetic and somber fairy tale of his own concoction. It also marks the first collaboration between Burton and his most famous muse, Johnny Depp. It was also really great to see the legend that is Vincent Price in one of his final performances as the inventor, the man responsible for Edward's existence. I love how Burton takes the notion of a Frankenstein monster, something rooted in horror, and plants it in a pastel-coloured world full of vain people who only love Edward for what he is and not who he is. The Boggs family are the only exception to this, especially Peg and Kim, who see through his bladed and scarred exterior to the innocent and loving being underneath. The Great Escape. For those of you who are wondering why I've included this film on the list, let me pose to you the following. The Great Escape has always been a staple on television during the holiday season in Britain. This seems to be because not only is it an absolute classic of a film, but it also represents one of the most important parts about Christmas: unity. It tells the story of Allied forces captured by the Nazis and thrown into a POW camp that is supposed to be inescapable. Without any hesitation, they combine all of their strengths to mount an incredible escape attempt of the camp. There is also a very humorous scene in which the American soldiers are celebrating the 4th of July, which even the British join in on, which is a nice way of affirming to the viewer the unity between these men against all odds. Christmas is coming together, putting aside all our differences for at least one day to celebrate the things that we have and the people that we love. And my number 1 pick is Die Hard. Yippee-ki-yay, Yeah, you guessed it, Die Hard is on the top of this Christmas list. Literally, the phrase non-traditional Christmas movie will always bring it to mind without fail. Rewatching it for this list was so great because it made me remember exactly how good of a film it is. It is that well done. Bruce Willis knocks it out the park as reluctant hero John McClane, who winds up taking on Hans Gruber, portrayed by the late, great Alan Rickman, and his gang of terrorists as they infiltrate Nakatomi Plaza. What is not to love about this movie? It even has Walter Peck from Ghostbusters getting punched in the face. My absolute favourite thing, though, has to be the friendship spawned between John McClane and Sergeant Al Powell. The moment when they meet for the first time and hug is simply so rewarding. I also love Rickman as Gruber. He brings such a sociopathic charm to the role of this villain, making it quite hard to truly hate him. The incorporation of Christmas carols and music into the film's score is cleverly done as well, really affirming to us that this is a Christmas film like no other. And there they are, my top 10 non-traditional Christmas movies. What did you think? Did I leave anything out? Leave a comment and please like and subscribe so you can get more episodes just like this one. Head on over to SoundCloud and iTunes where you can find me talking all things pop culture on a podcast called Fred and the monthly at Winifred's. I've been a Kendall Richardson and you've just experienced Collectible Chaos. Happy holidays!